top 8 here, given that there's a low number of players. So we'll see what these two name players can do here in this particular matchup. And I imagine after this, we'll probably turn our attention back to the Boz.
I would hope so.
As he is on top of the standings here for this tournament. But we could just have a Boz-infused day as well. So we want to mix it up a little bit.
These are typically the kind of matchups where Sultai Reanimator is in a strong position.
It really does feel that way.
Games that go on for a long time that are about playing to the board, where one player has Whip of Erebos and the other player does not, usually that's going to be a pretty big advantage for the deck with Whip of Erebos, and that's Larry in this matchup.
A Thoughtseize here for Swasey. Show you a couple copies of Fleece Mane Lion, a Siege Rhino, a Bile Blight and Ultimate Price, and then a couple of lands there for Smith and Temple of Malady and Llanowar Waste.
And this is exactly the kind of hand. This is a solid hand from Erik, no doubt about it. He's got lands and some good spells and some threats to curve out with. This is the kind of hand where if Larry is curving out with Whip of Erebos and filling up his graveyard with high-impact stuff, Erik doesn't have much of a recourse. His removal spells aren't very effective at handling this sort of stuff, and his clock is fine, but not especially fast. That said, if Larry doesn't have Whip of Erebos or a way to defend himself, this is one of the faster draws that Erik's deck can produce, and he may be able to run Larry out of the game before Larry gets much of anything set up.
Well, Larry's going to take a look at his hand as he makes this decision with Thoughtseize. He's got a Hero's Downfall, so DC Brew Tyrant over there. Looks like a Corsair of Crufix too. So a pretty tough decision to make, but he'll go with Fleece Mane Lion.
Fleece Mane feels like the most important card in this hand because of Erik's draw of turn 2 Fleece Mane Lion, turn 3 Fleece Mane Lion plus a Scry land. Probably sets the stage for a turn 4 Siege Rhino, and Larry just needs to blunt some of this early offense that Erik can produce.
Erik going to take one to play that Fleece Mane Lion, pass the turn back. Swasey's going to draw. Copy of Sylvan Caryatid. And there's an island. There's Caryatid. Pass the turn back. Caryatid actually pretty important there because Larry's mana is a little weird.
Well, he was going to miss a land drop that turn, and he didn't have double green. So that Caryatid draw is huge. It sets the stage next turn for either Sidisi if he's feeling so inclined, or he can just go ahead and play Corsair, having not made a land drop and get an opportunity to find one off the top of the deck.
Saw Smith play Temple of Malady, attack for 3, and just pass the turn back over to Swasey. See if Swasey wants to go the Corsair route here. He does have a fetch land to give himself 2 shots. So he will play Corsair. Take a look at that top card. It's Hornet Queen. That's not a land. The tough thing here, too, is that he knows his opponent has Ultimate Price in hand.
And that's part of the reason Larry was a little jammed up this turn one way or the other. He also knows about a Bile Blight as well, so he can't just cast this easy for much profit when Erik has 2 mana up. So Corsair makes a lot of sense that turn because you at least get one free opportunity to find a land and play it. And at least get some value out of your creature that's dying to a removal spell anyway.
Swasey's going to sacrifice his Polluted Delta in response to this Ultimate Price. Part of the reason for this is because he wants to stay neutral on life. He's going to sacrifice that Delta anyway because he does not want to draw a Hornet Queen next turn, given his mana situation. He'll get a Swamp, and he'll give away a little bit of information about the top card of his deck, which is a little bit unfortunate for him, but I think it is important to at least stay neutral on life when the Corsair is in play, because you're going to sacrifice that fetch land anyway. Yeah,
he does give off a little bit of information to Erik, but you know he's under the gun from a Fleece Mane Lion right now. He knows that Erik's likely to follow up with a Siege Rhino next turn, so that 1 point of damage could be very important. It's worth giving up that piece of information.
And the piece of information that was given up was Opulent Palace. Here's the attack. Swasey's down to 12. It's a Temple. Take a look at that top card, Will Smith. He'll think things through here.
Temple with that turn is really good news for Larry because he does not want to be facing down a Siege Rhino this turn.
Opulent Palace the draw, of course. It's as good as news as a Temple can be, I suppose.
Yep. Untap land number 4 there is big trouble for Larry.
Yeah.
So.
What's interesting here, too, is that Swasey in his hand, he does have Hero's Downfall, but he also has Ultimate Price. And Ultimate Price lining up pretty poorly against what Smith is bringing to the table here in Fleece Mane Lion and Siege Rhino.
There's a lot of matchups where Ultimate Price is very important, and it's one of the few 2-mana removal spells in the format that can be versatile later on in the game. You know, Bile Blight loses a lot of its value, but against other Abzan decks, it is trouble because they put so many gold threats into play.
Hero's Downfall takes care of Fleece Mane Lion. There's Siege Rhino from Smith. Trigger, of course, will bring Smith up to 22, Swasey down to 9. There's the Sands Up Citadel, the passing of the turn. Swasey will draw. Sidisi, Undead Vizier is what he's picked up. The thing that's tough about this Ultimate Reanimator deck is I agree with you. I think it is well positioned in this particular matchup, but what I have found while I've been watching this deck is a lot of times it kind of stumbles and fumbles on mana a little bit because they're trying to cheat on lands. They're only playing 23.
Yeah, you do have issues with your land drops. You have issues with your colored mana situation as well because you're trying to put together double black and double green and blue pretty early on in the game. And the deck often doesn't do anything until it gets Whip of Erebus going. Yeah. Or it's playing to the board but not as efficiently as other options in the format.
It feels like it's all a lot of setup to get Whip going. Now, when it gets Whip going, it's a very hard deck to beat.
That's why I think the most important card for this deck by far is Wayfinder, because you just need something to grease the wheels a little bit.
There's Sidisi. Larry going to sacrifice one of his mana sources. See what he wants to search up. He has brought Murderous Cut forward. But he is weighing his options here. Why do I just want to go grab a temple? I don't know why I want to.
You want to go grab a temple?
Yeah, it's like I just sacrificed my Caryatid to go to temple, scry, make sure I still have 5 lands.
Depending on how you define free, it's a free scry.
Yeah.
But it feels pretty costly to me.
For some reason, I just want to go get myself a temple here. Make sure I hit my land drop, scry into another land drop. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Smith will draw a card. See if he's got a removal spell for this Sidisi. He's got to read the bones. That's not too bad. He'll get to take a look at 2 cards here with the scry. He likes one of them. One on top, one on bottom. He'll, of course, take 2. There's Thoughtseize.
I think Erik has his Murderous Cut, in which case this turn is just perfect.
Yes.
Get to strip out whatever Larry tutored for.
And Larry tutored for a Murderous Cut of his own. So you see the hand here, Ultimate Price, Murderous Cut, Sidisi, Brood, Tyrant, and Courser of Crewfix. See what Smith wants to select.
Well, none of the creatures feel that significant to me.
Ultimate Price looks pretty bad.
It's possible the last card in Erik's hand is Tasigur, in which case this turn is not nearly as good.
Okay.
Still fine, but now the Ultimate Price is a magic card,
yes,
where it was not before.
And Thoughtseize would actually be card number 5 in the graveyard, so he could cast Tasigur if he wants to.
Yeah.
But the Ultimate Price does make things a little bit more complicated. Well, he's going to take Ultimate Price. And now he will cast Tasigur, it seems. So there's the 4/5. No good attacks, of course, thanks to Sidisi winning the Siege Rhino War. Death Touch is very powerful, too. And we're going to head back Swasey's way. Again, he's still gummed up on mana. He drew an Urboard for the turn, however.
Very interesting for Erik to select Ultimate Price there instead of Murderous Cut, since Murderous Cut is a 1-mana, more versatile copy of Ultimate Price at this stage.
There's Urboard, trigger. Caryatid on top of the deck. Swasey wants to take a look at Smith's graveyard, but there's nothing in the graveyard. I suppose he could take a look at what's exiled from Tasigur. Maybe the thought process with leaving Murderous Cut in hand is he's got to delve away a bunch of his graveyard if you're playing against this Reanimator deck.
Well, maybe not. With the Sidisi back on defense, there's no guarantee Larry even has to cast a removal spell right now.
This is true.
And on top of that, his graveyard isn't particularly good.
Smith's hand right now, he does have a copy of Bile Blight, Fleecemane Lion, a Windswept Teeth, and another copy of Siege Rhino. But he doesn't have a ton of lands in play right now either. He has 5, and then, of course, the Windswept Teeth in hand to play. So we'll see if he wants to go the Tasigur route or the Rhino route. He's going to go the Tasigur route. Hero's Downfall and Abzan Charm.
That's a great hit for Erik.
Not bad.
Because the top priority right now just has to be getting Sidisi off the table. Yes. And now he has access to do that next turn.
And he knows exactly what's in Swasey's hand and what he's drawing. Hero's Downfall will be given. Windswept Teeth will be sacrificed. A forest is the weapon of choice to deploy the Fleecemane Lion. And I think we're going to head back Swasey's way here in just a moment. Pretty good turn there for Erik.
Yeah, very solid.
Swasey with Murderous Cut at the ready. Sidisi trying to play the role of roadblock. But things have gotten a lot more difficult now.
Yeah, Larry was holding on to the board okay before Erik found a removal spell.
Murderous Cut on top of the deck. Carry out of the draw, of course. There's Sidisi. We got ourselves a trigger here. Murderous Cut is 1. Opulent Palace is 2. Swamp is 3.
Yeah, bad news. Larry taking a bit of a gamble there, giving up on the Murderous Cut because the upside of finding a zombie there is so high. But the worst case scenario, flipping over the Murderous Cut and not finding a creature.
And the top card of your deck staring back at you is an uncastable Dragonlord Atarka. And he can't even deploy his Sylvan Caryatid this turn either.
But now this is some of the consequence for Erik having selected Ultimate Price instead of Murderous Cut. Now Larry has an access to the turn of Sidisi plus Murderous Cut.
Yeah.
Where I suppose if it was Ultimate Price, it would have just been used at the end of last turn, so probably doesn't play out that much differently.
There's the cut. So there goes the Tasker. Smith gonna untap. He'll take a draw. We know he's got Hero's Downfall. I believe he may have picked up a copy of Thoughtseize. Keep in mind on Swasey's side of the table is actually a really important Urborg.
Yes. I mean, Erik's hand is Bioblight, Hero's Downfall. He's going to get to do some real work with this Urborg.
Yeah. Thoughtseize too.
Bioblight, Thoughtseize is
Yep.
the perfect spot for this Urborg.
Get in there. Courser. Gonna block the Fleecemane Lion. I think Smith knows the other card there in Swasey's hand, so he might not want to cast Thoughtseize. We'll see. He'll cast it. Take the Caryatid.
Erik's setting up lethal for next turn because
Yeah.
Larry's going to draw nothing, and then the Siege Rhino in Erik's hand will be able to finish off the game.
Here's your Dragonlord Atarka. Top card, Whip of Erebos. Nice. No good attacks to be had, that's for sure. Swasey's going to concede the game. Erik Smith's going to win game number 1 here over Larry Swasey. Ob's on control up a game here over Sultai Reanimator. I don't think the expected result, and things will probably get better for Swasey after sideboard, but again, this is something I've just seen to be common, even in the finals, you think, right, with Reed Duke and Jacob Wilson, where Reed just kind of had some man issues. Not to say that's always going to be the case, but 23 lands, it makes your coursers ineffective, it makes it so your Seder Wayfinders aren't going to hit as often, you just have less lands in your deck.
The deck has a fail rate. There's two ways that it manifests. One is how you're discussing, where you just miss land drops or your color mana situation doesn't work out. And the second fail rate, this is not exactly a failure, but where the deck is inefficient is when you don't do really anything to get your graveyard going and you don't find Whip of Erebos. And at that point, you're just kind of a bad Sultai / Abzan mid-range deck. And that was, and Larry got a little bit of both of them. There were some issues with his land drops there, and he stumbled a little bit. He also just never did anything impactful. And when it's my creatures and removal spells against your creatures and removal spells, Abzan Control is going to win that game more often than not. Larry's got to make it about trumping him with the graveyard, and he was never able to do that in game 1.
Well, we will take a look at the sideboard here for Swasey. He's got 3 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Bioblight, a Drown in Sorrow, 2 Crux and Fate, 1 Soul of Innistrad, 1 Reclamation Sage, 2 Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, and another copy of Dragonlord Atarka.
So I think all the cards that let him go longer are good for Larry here. I think the 2 copies of Ashiok will likely come in. I think Soul of Innistrad's pretty powerful. Bioblights against the Fleecemane line builds. Maybe Larry doesn't care too much about that card, but there's at least some incentive to bring it in. I think Thoughtseize and Disdainful Stroke are both very powerful in this matchup, and the 2 Crux of Fates come in here as well. So Larry can do a lot of very good sideboarding.
What do you see for Erik Smith?
3 copies of Drown in Sorrow, 3 copies of Duress, a Read the Bones, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 2 copies of End Hostilities, and Erase, a Back to Nature, Garruk, Apex Predator, and 2 copies of Rakshasa Death Dealer. I'm definitely interested in the Ugin and the Read the Bones and the Erase. I think that's the top of the list. Erik needs some answers to Whip of Erebos, and Ugin can be very powerful in this kind of matchup. Larry can build up a board, and Ugin can undo all that work. Read the Bones, powerful in any sort of slower matchup. Once you get past that, cards like End Hostilities, Garruk, and I think Duress are on the fence. I think he's more likely than not to bring in the Sweepers and the Garruk. I think Duress probably does not come in because there's only so many decks, only so many spells in these Sultai Reanimator decks because it's so creature dense. But most of the time, if they're sideboarding anything, it's high impact spells.
Well, both these players will sideboard and shuffle up here for game number 2 in just a moment. We will very quickly talk about SCG Game Night. I'm sure you've seen the kittens on our lapels. The most popular of game nights so far has been this one.
It seems to be the consensus. We have the next couple kits lined up for you here. Stores can get signed up for this program very easily by heading over to StarCityGames.com/game night or contacting an organized play representative over at Star City Games. We send out these kits every month, and it's a new pin and a new foil token. The stores can manage this however they want to, set up game night for any day of the week, any format they want, just to get players in their store for fun and friendly magic. Obviously, it's April right now. Can't get that kit, and the May kit is too late to sign up for. These are the Bs. But if you want to get signed up for June, which is this bunny token and pin we're about to show you, then over to StarCityGames.com/game night or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
A bunny with some military intelligence there for sure.
Just drawing up some strategy to get to those carrots. Adorable.
Carrots suck. Actually, no, I take that back. Carrots aren't that bad.
They're pretty sweet.
They're not. They're just okay. I can sympathize with the bunny. He wants to get some carrots. I get it. StarCityGames.com/game night for more information to get that set up for your local store. You have to imagine the bunny will be part of maybe our spring kit.
Would
spring collection?
Would stand to reason.
Yeah. Along with the terrifying bee and the adorable kitten. And then some sort of pun.
Well, one of the animals kind of has to be frightening. That's what we did. You know, the rat looks innocent enough, and then the wider lens on that art piece is it inside the eye socket of a skull.
Yeah, it's true.
So we had to have one.
Just one monster.
Yeah. One terrifying thing. It's not the bee's fault it's terrifying. That's just what its role is in nature, you know? That's just...
Can't the bee just choose to be nice?
It's not how that works.
They just attack people.
We are who we are.
Thanks, Kesha. Appreciate it. Game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment between Erik Smith and Larry Swasey. Players have been given the green light, so we're underway here. Opulent Palace here for Swasey. Smith with the Temple of Malady. Take a look at the top card. It's going to stay on top. We'll pass it back Larry's way. A Forest, the draw. Perhaps we'll see a Thoughtseize. We will. Fleeceman Line, Courser of Crufix, and a whole bunch of lands here for Smith. 2 Sandsep Citadels, 2 Temple of Silence. Actually, make that 3 Citadels, excuse me.
This is a tough hand. I suppose on the back of all these temples, it's keepable, and the nature of the matchup's a little bit on the slower side, but this hand does not curve out efficiently, nor does it do very much.
Is it on?
3 temples, though. Hard to pass up all those temples.
Yeah.
You have 50 minutes. Please begin.
Fleeceman Line, the selection. Swasey with an Opulent Palace, pass that turn back. Smith will draw. Obzon Charm, play 8 Temple of Silence. Take a look at the top card. It's going to stay on top, so he found something he liked. Going back to Larry. Sidisi Brew Tyrant the draw. You see a Deafness Raptor in hand. And the Raptor will run to the battlefield. We'll go to Smith. Hero's Downfall the draw. He'll play Sandsep Citadel, pass the turn back. Swasey will attack for 3. Smith going to go down to 17. And there's a Manic Influence. Here's a Sidisi. So let's take a look at a couple of cards. A Thoughtseize is 1. A Swamp is 2. A Island is 3. Very fortunate there for Erik Smith. I know Zombie joined that.
Yeah, he's a little bit behind the gun already. He's going to be able to kill this DC with one of the removal spells in hand, but would have been bad news to face down another zombie here. Make that clock go from 3 damage to 5 damage a turn.
There's Hero's Downfall for Smith. He'll follow that up with a Sandsep Citadel. Pass that turn back over to Swasey. Swasey going to draw another copy of Sidisi. He'll play a Sidisi. I'll have to take 1 to cast it. Take a look at cards. Seder Wayfinder is 1. Urborg is 2. Deathmiss Raptor is 3. So a zombie will be coming.
Gets a hit and a Deathmiss Raptor for his trouble as well. Very nice turn there for Larry.
Frontier Bivouac's a land. They attack for 3. We'll knock Smith down to 14. Smith will draw a copy of Siege Rhino. That could attempt to play the role of Roadblock here against the Sidisi and the Zombie token. Of course, there's really no stopping that Deathmiss Raptor.
You can see the look on Erik's face. He knows that if he runs into a downfall type effect here, he's probably out of the game, but this is the best effort he can make to stabilize the board.
See if Swasey's able to draw a removal spell.
If it's his fourth copy of Sidisi.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He's coming in with everybody. Trigger, a Swamp, a Polluted Delta, a Courser of Crewfix. That third one's important. Another zombie's going to join the battlefield.
It's funny because if Larry doesn't draw the fourth Sidisi this turn, I actually don't think he sends in. He's just a little bit short. But now with the fourth Sidisi in hand, he has a plan of, all right, play another Sidisi because you probably block and need that one.
Maybe make another zombie.
Yep.
Let's try again. 1's a Soul of Innistrad, 2 is a Den Protector, 3 is a Hero's Downfall, another zombie.
It almost makes me wonder in that spot if Erik is supposed to block one of the zombies instead of the Sidisi, because that attack makes very little sense unless it's exactly that.
Here's Courser.
The other card that could rationalize that attack, I think, is Bioblight. So I guess in that scenario, you're better off blocking the Sidisi,
Sure.
because you don't need either way.
Sure. Elspeth is an interesting draw. And Smith is up to 13.
Fleece Mate Line's an important draw here for Erik as well, because now that's something that can check a zombie token easily.
Yep.
And Larry's on this beatdown plan, so.
Swasey's draw for the turn was a copy of Satyr Wayfinder. Perhaps he starts there. Looks like he will. So Veribos is 1. Force is 2. Courser is 3. Looks like 2 cards stuck together here. Swasey pointing that out to the judge, was trying to reveal. Temple is 4. I believe we'll see a shuffle of the deck here.
Yeah, I don't think Larry's even scried this game, so they can just shuffle and fix this very easily.
You see Larry explaining that to the table spotter, resolving his Satyr Wayfinder. So he gets to pick a land. He'll take the Temple. And a creature got milled over there in Courser, so he's going to get a zombie. So this was a very easy problem to solve, thankfully. And now he will randomize his deck since he did see the top card, which was a Hero's Downfall. Always nice when something like this comes up. It's very easy to solve.
Yep. And that the rules enforcement is not as draconian as when you and I were competing in these
So
sort
we
of
would both
events.
be taken out in handcuffs.
Right. We would be in the police station being interviewed separately.
We gotta get our story straight.
A cop telling me that Cedric's already ratted you out. He said that you already flipped over 5 cards. And just to cut your losses.
I would give you up so fast. Gotta look out for myself, man. Sorry. One of those zombies can't attack. So that's gonna hang back. See what Swasey does want to attack with, though. Gonna take a look at the graveyard here. I have a feeling we're gonna have a Murder's Cut coming.
Yep. We set aside 4 lands.
There is Murder's Cut to take care of the Rhino.
And this makes Larry's attack so much better this turn.
Yeah.
Because now everything's pretty much good to go.
Here comes Sidisi 2. Trigger. Lanimore Waste, Murder's Cut, and Sidisi, Undead Vizier. It's always a sweat on that third card if you're going to get a zombie or not. Smith going to block the Sidisi and the zombie. He'll take a healthy amount of damage. We're going to find out just how good Elspeth is right now. If it can stabilize this board.
Courser helps a lot here as well.
Yep. There's Temple. See if Swasey likes the top card.
Also,
Swasey-
if Erik has brought in his sweepers, he can, and hostilities in the spot is very, very good if he can hold on.
Really good.
Because Larry is, he does have a Soul of Innistrad in his graveyard. He does have the ability to rebuild a little bit, but Elspeth and a sweeper here would be problematic big time.
Sidisi in hand as well, so rebuilding is something he can definitely do. Top card, ooh, Garrick Apex Predator. See if that'll play a role. There's land. Smith up to 7.
I mean, at this point, it feels like, I don't know if these planeswalkers are good enough, but it's the best thing Eric's got going.
It's certainly true. Here's Elspeth. Here comes Soldiers to do a bunch of chump blocking. So here we go. We'll see if the combination of Elspeth and Garrett can maybe get things done. Depends on what Swasey's draws are. Swasey will draw again. He's got Sidisi in hand, the 4th copy. Drew a copy of Satyr Wayfinder.
Satyr Wayfinder is not bad in this spot either because it allows him to have a turn of Sidisi plus the Wayfinder.
Yep.
Probably generate a couple tokens here, and that just might be too much for Erik to finagle between Elspeth and Garrick.
Classic finagling. Somebody wants to read Big Papa Garrick.
A lot of powers.
What does the Apex Predator do?
Kill stuff, makes tokens. Get to overrun somewhere down the line. Overrun emblem.
Yeah?
Overrun emblem. Kind of a weird thing because the first attack just kills them, so it's not like you get to have it in, not like you get to have it in play for multiple turns, but whatever.
Destroy another target planeswalker, not really going to come up. Put a 3/3 black beast creature token with death touch on the battlefield, might come up. The -3 ability is probably the best of the bunch right now. And then as you mentioned, the overrun emblem doesn't really play a huge role right now. Smith at 7, trying to hang on here.
If Erik is able to get to the Garrick emblem, it probably means that Larry lost the game some other way, and Garrick's just kind of playing cleanup.
It's time to battle.
What's interesting here, does Larry say, just go at you, or does he make any effort to get Elspeth off the table?
I would be surprised if he goes at Elspeth.
I would too, because now with Garrick on top of the deck, Erik saying no blocks, untap, play Garrick. Now I've got my defenses kind of set up here is probably too bad.
Well, he's sending something towards Elspeth. See, Smith is going to organize some blockers here. This is interesting. Now, the nice thing here for Swasey is he does get to rebuild pretty nicely after this.
Yeah.
Because of the Sidisi and the Satyr Wayfinder. Assuming both of those bring tokens along with it. And it sounds like everything is attacking Elspeth in this situation. So there are your blocks. Elspeth goes down to 1. Interesting attack there from Swasey. Now, it is, I think, pretty important that Sidisi finds at least 1 zombie.
Yes.
If it finds 2, the game is probably over, but we'll see. Let's take a look here. Dragonlord Atarka, Ashiok, Llanowar Waste, zombie token. Satyr Wayfinder, maybe?
Brian Dolan.
Yes.
And Daniel
Trigger.
Walsh.
Ashiok, Deathmiss Raptor,
Brian Dolan and
Murderous
Daniel
Cut.
Walsh, you're stolen on you.
Opulent Palace.
So I'm not that thrilled about sending everything at Elspeth and failing to kill Elspeth, because the difference between Elspeth at 5 and Elspeth at 1 is not huge here, with Erik being forced to chump block a bunch.
Thoughtseize the top card. Gonna tick up. Eric's gonna do a bunch of math.
Well, Garrick minusing and taking care of Sidisi allows him to gain some life as well. So then he goes up to 10.
I think the big question is, are you supposed to play Garrick in this situation, minus and take care of Sidisi, or do whatever you want to do with the Planeswalker, or are you supposed to Obzon Charm and try to find a Bile Blight?
I like this because, now at this stage, Larry's really got nothing going on besides the Soul in his graveyard, which is a pretty slow burn. And an Alpha Strike here is not great because Eric's got a 2/4 that can check a 2/2 token. He can chump block the Deathmiss Raptor pretty easily.
I guess there's really no great way to deal lethal damage here for Swasey.
And if Larry is not dealing lethal, then he's going after these Planeswalkers, and that's more draw steps for Erik to find something like End Hostilities or Ugin and really cement his position.
Now, the top card of the deck for Smith is pretty poor there in Thoughtseize. But the Obzon Charm could potentially backdoor him into something useful.
Yep.
And if you're Erik, at least there's no more Sidisi's coming.
And now Larry's hand is kind of forced, which is why I was not a big fan of an attack on Elspeth for short of lethal, because now he has 2 planeswalkers he really has to slog through, and Erik has a lot of control over the blocks. If Larry sends everything at one of the planeswalkers, well, Erik gets to make some inroads on the board, blocking however he wants to, and can allow the planeswalker to die. And now he's looking at a 3/3 token coming out from Garrick every turn, or 3 1/1 tokens from Elspeth. Both of these are really problematic.
He does have to make some very obscure attacks to try to get a planeswalker off the board.
Right, and if he makes an attack with everything, Erik just go, okay, well, I'll put a 2/4 in front of your 2/2. I'll trade with the 1/1 if I'm feeling so inclined. Maybe not. Maybe he even puts 2 of his soldier tokens in front of a zombie, and then allows the planeswalker to die. So now Larry's further and further away from having a lethal board, and that's giving Erik more draw steps to find end hostilities, Ugin, or some other large trump, another planeswalker, whatever the case may be.
No, as you mentioned, there is that Soul of Innistrad to worry about.
But that's a slow burn here, and it's not like Larry's got anything like... He has nothing like Siege Rhino to finish off the game. He does have Dragon Lord Atarka, and that's bad news for Erik. And he's got the ability to cast it because he has Mana Confluence in Frontier Bivouac.
Everybody going after Elspeth again here. Garrick, oddly enough, as powerful as that card is, not really all that threatening on this board.
Well, yeah, Larry's going so wide that Elspeth is the real threat right now, not Garrick.
Oh, Morph.
Uh-oh. There's some Death Mist Raptors that have been flipped over here.
There are. Temple. Take a look at the top card, Plains. That's going to the bottom very quickly. Let's see the next card. Forest. Not what the doctor ordered. Smith with Thoughtseize and Abzan Charm.
I don't think I would main phase the card drawing spell right now, because I think it's important for Erik to conceal the fact that he can do something other than draw a forest next turn. If he makes a token with Garrick, you know, Larry does whatever he does, probably unmorphs the Den Protector.
Yeah, we'll see how this works out.
Yeah.
Forest, Fleecemane, top card, Windswept Heath. And Garrick going to tick up, so the Beast token going to join.
The reason that I was not a huge fan of using the Abzan Charm in that spot is because I think the only real way for Erik to win is to find either End Hostilities or Ugin. And either of those cards might not even be enough, but that's kind of where it's got to start. The best way to get an opportunity to get to those cards is to demonstrate that you're actually in a soft position. By saying, just go, I'm drawing a forest next turn, I can't really do anything threatening. Larry, you can bridge this over 2 turns and nothing bad's going to happen. The Abzan Charm possibly bucks that up, because Larry might play slowly, not try to kill you this turn, and then you Abzan Charm into one of your catch-up cards, and now it's a game all of a sudden. Playing it this way, Larry is now working with full information. He knows exactly what you're capable of doing, and he can push now as hard as he wants to with Dragon Lord Atarka.
You've given him no ability to maybe make a mistake or outthink
Exactly, yeah. It's now all the information's present. Whereas before, at least some of it was concealed. At the end of the day, Larry probably just goes for the kill no matter what you do, because you can get Dragon Lord Atarka, kill your stuff, and make a lethal attack.
Which is exactly what he's doing right now.
But there's some chance that he underestimates what you're capable of doing by sitting on the Abzan Charm, and maybe you get one more turn.
However, that is not the case. Erik Smith will not get another turn. Larry Swasey going to win game number 2 here against Erik Smith. Sultai Reanimator and Abzan Control will head to a 3rd game here. The splash of Dragon Lord Atarka proving to be valuable in that game.
Very much so. Also, it was interesting to watch how much the Graveyard Matters stuff occurred for Larry's side of the table without Whip of Erebos being involved. He was able to just get a lot of stuff going on in his graveyard and incidentally found Death Mist Raptors, Soul of Innistrad, and a couple other cards that allowed him to generate a lot of value out of his graveyard without having to resolve Whip of Erebos and do something with that every turn.
These players have about 14 or 15 minutes here for game number 3, and this is no slow matchup, so we might see a little bit of speed magic here. While we do wait, however, we will talk about Star City Games' YouTube page, in which you can find replays, obviously, of the Open Series, the Versus Series, the archives of the premium Magic Online videos, and the unboxings that we see Brian Braun doing, Evan Irwin, Brad Nelson, all those guys do.
Yeah, you can head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames videos and become a subscriber right now. There's just a ton of stuff hanging out there, whatever your interests are. You want to go back and look at some of the archived coverage or unboxings, versus series, everything that Star City Games produces in video form, either on the website or via our SCG Live content. It all exists there. So if you want to go and check out the archives, you can head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames video.
And subscribe, because that's sweet too.
Yeah. Get all the
Want some
updates, let
subscribers.
know when new stuff pops up there, because new stuff's headed up there all the time.
Yeah. Got over 60,000 subscribers to the page right now, so be one of those people. youtube.com/StarCityGames video. As game number 3 here about to begin between former Invitational champion Erik Smith and the Swasey Shuffle.
Both players, above all else, trying to avoid another draw.
Yes. That would be ideal. Another draw will end their top 8 dreams. It is certainly possible for both these players, however, to make top 8 this weekend. But it all starts with a win here. A draw is not an option. Salter Reanimator, pretty popular deck this weekend. I know it wasn't terribly popular at the Pro Tour. Abzan and Control, of course, was popular at the Pro Tour because it's Abzan. But Salter Reanimator, not that big of a deal at the Pro Tour. Ross Merriam having a nice little tournament with it so far. Mm-hmm. Reed Duke, kind of the person who put that deck on the map, but he's playing Blue-White Control this weekend. We're going to have to get a little more Reed Duke in our life here soon.
I think so, too. I talked to him yesterday a little bit. I was like, how'd the Pro Tour go? He goes, not so good for me. And then sort of pauses the way that Reed does. And he's just like, it's, part of the job description.
Can't win them all.
Can't win them all. That's just how it goes.
If you could, he would.
The Reed Duke reflective pause and response is...
Was there some hair turn too?
Well, it just
a little hair in the wind?
it naturally does that. Because
Yeah.
it just tilts his head off to the side. And
Yeah.
the wind just blows through it.
It's just really impressive.
Yeah.
It's funny because I know exactly what pause you're talking about too. I don't have to actually be there. I know the pause.
Just gathering his thoughts and trying to find the right words.
Yes.
How to say the most while using the least words.
It's a very powerful thing to do.
A Reed Duke specialty.
Erik Smith will be on the play here for game number 3. Swasey getting a mulligan in his hand. He'll take a look at 6 cards here in just a moment.
So the lessons there from games 1 and 2, I believe, are when Larry's not doing anything of note with his graveyard, Erik's deck is much better.
Yes.
But when Larry gets to, prime the pump a little bit and do some stuff with his graveyard, even if it isn't necessarily with Erebos, he's got an edge. Larry kind of needs to make the game about something else, because if the game is about good creatures and good removal spells, Erik's got a big edge.
We'll see if Swasey can find a better 6 cards here. There's at least 1 land there, and a Forest of Thoughtseize too.
He does have the Dragon Lord Atarka as well.
A combo. I think he even has the Bivouac. He's got 5 cards now. The first thing I would do to this deck is add a 24th land.
That's the first
That
one.
is, I would play 61 so I could play a 24th land.
I just wouldn't play in a tournament if I had to play 61 cards.
I won states with 61 cards.
I believe that happened.
Okay.
People won tournaments with 61
All right.
card decks. I'm not
61,
saying it doesn't happen.
61's sweet. Sometimes you just get to the point where it's like, I don't even know what to cut. Just who
Well,
cares?
it's interesting. Dave Humphreys, who's now the head of the development team over at Wizards of the Coast,
Yes.
he played the Benzo Reanimator deck at that Pro Tour in New Orleans many years ago, where they played 61 cards.
Yep.
And he said, well, we were playing a bunch of tutor targets, and we wanted X ratio of mana, and going down to 60 cards would have meant cutting one of the tutor targets, which would have potentially influenced one of the matchups quite a bit. That was the best explanation I ever heard for playing a 61 card deck, where you have a bunch of tutors, and you want to be able to access your right tutors in the right target and in the right matchups. So it does impact the matchups by removing one of those cards.
The Swasey shuffle has been fully engaged now because he is still shuffling. He's going down to 4 cards now. I like a good 61 card deck. Not for the reasons you mentioned, because everything you just said made sense.
That's a real answer.
Yeah, that's a real answer. My answer is because I was too lazy to cut a card.
Right.
And I wanted another land because I always want another land when I play. Because nothing infuriates me more than getting mana screwed, so I just put another land in my deck.
But you'd be better served having one less spell if that was
Maybe.
the case.
Maybe.
Just 60 cards.
Maybe you're right, but I wanted that spell too.
But that's just not how the math. Whatever.
Look,
It's just
don't
not,
tell me how to live my life.
that's just not how that
I'm going
works.
to live my life how I want to live my life. Sandsep Citadel here for Smith. A Forest for Swasey. There's the Fleeceman line. We're going to get the beatdowns going right away.
Well, really important. Opponent on 4 cards and 10 minutes left in the round. Erik wants to be as aggressive as possible.
There's another Citadel. Passing of the turn. Swasey will draw. A Forest. I think a Courser. No? Just a passing of the turn.
He does have a Courser, but I don't think he wants to cast it. He wants to give himself one chance to hit because it's just a very high likelihood Erik untaps and has a removal spell for the Courser.
Sure.
And with Larry on 4 cards, he's got to try to squeeze out something.
Temple of Silence will reveal Siege Rhino. That's not going anywhere. Pass the turn back over to Swasey. Courser, the top card of the deck. So now we know he has one for sure. He'll play this one. Top card is an Ashiok. There's a copy of Llanowar Waste. No blue mana.
Ashiok is a stinker.
Yeah, right now it is.
Even if you could cast it, it'd be a stinker.
Yeah, okay.
And you can't cast it.
There's Hero's Downfall. Keep the beatdowns going. In for 5. Turn that Ashiok down. That'll be the draw step for Swasey. Swasey down at 10. Another Courser here for Larry. Top card. Yavimaya blue mana. Trigger up to 11. Top card. Satyr Wayfinder. Pass. To Smith, who will draw his Tassiger. We'll see the next card. Temple. That will enter the battlefield. We'll have 2 triggers, one for Scry, one for Courser. Forest is the top card of the deck. We'll see where Erik wants to place it. Looks like he's happy enough leaving that on top. There's Hero's Downfall yet again. Attack for 5. Puts Swasey down to 6. Some elementary magic here.
Siege Rhinos, Knobs on Charms, and Downfalls and such left over.
All powerful. Wayfinder was the draw here for Swasey. Looks like he'll be casting that in just a moment. A Frontier Bivouac. A Sidisi. A Polluted Delta. A Thoughtseize. See which land will join the hand. Looks like it will be Polluted Delta. The rest will go to the graveyard. They're going to do a little bit of math, see what happens if maybe he plays his Whip of Erebos this turn.
The other problem is if he casts the Ashiok, I believe he just dies because he has to take a point of damage either off of Yavimaya Coast or Polluted Delta. And that puts him to 5, and there's a Siege Rhino in Erik's hand. But Whip of Erebos is also, I think, a dead end at this spot.
He's got to sacrifice a Delta to even be able to cast it, which is 5, and then take one from the Llanowar Waste, which puts him down to 4, so same issue.
Yeah.
I think he is running those things through his head right now to see that there is no way for me to get out of this situation.
Yeah, I just don't think he can spare a point.
Smith will draw that Forest. Top card is a Garruk Apex Predator. Erik will gain a life there from the Courser trigger. And he may not close the game out this turn, but you have to imagine he'll be able to close it out the next one.
Yep.
He's going to tread a little carefully here, given that Larry does have some untapped mana available.
I mean, I suppose he can just go for the kill this turn by going Downfall on this and Abzan Charm.
Yeah. He can do that. He can also just not do anything and just say your Polluted Delta is now irrelevant.
Yep.
Your Yavimaya Coast and your 2 Llanowar Waste are irrelevant too. So go ahead.
Yep.
You have a bunch of colorless lands in place. Sidisi's the draw. You can't cast that. Yeah, and Larry, see, I like that. Go out on your own terms. Sacrifice my Polluted Delta and extend the hand. Erik Smith going to win this match here over Larry Swasey. 2-1. Abzan Control will take care of Sultai Reanimator. And for Smith, he can still top 8 this thing if things do break his way.
An unfortunate draw game 3 for Larry there, mulliganing to 4, but at the same time, he actually had a functional 4-card hand. He's going to have a lot of 7-card hands that play out similarly to what we saw that game.